brand new smartphone in my hand is the Xiaomi Mi 10. It's a new device, an interesting device. And in this video, I'm going to be unboxing this and giving you my first look review at exactly what the Mi 10 5G has to offer here on M Reviews. So this is it. This is the box that the Xiaomi Mi 10 comes in. I really like the way that they've done the branding there on the front with the 10 and the 5G logo. So this particular variation is the 8GB with 256GB worth of storage. You can also pick this up with 128GB worth of storage. So taking the lid off at the top, the first section over here is the standard goodies that Xiaomi have included, but there are a few extras here. So to begin with, we get the SIM ejector tool. We also get the standard warranty and paper information. Now what's slightly different here is that Xiaomi have included a USB-C to 3.5mm headphone adapter as well. And something a little different is a much more premium feeling free case that comes included. This has kind of soft bits on the side, but on the back you've got this kind of hard plastic with some, I don't know what it is, it's like some raised backing on the back, so that should help with grip. Then we get the device itself, and standard Xiaomi have included a top sticker that has some of the key standout points. We'll talk more about that later on in the video. Inside we also get included a USB-C to standard USB charging sync cable and a fast charger as well. So taking a closer look around the device, the first thing that you'll notice is that beautiful coral green color. It looks and feels premium in the hand. It's got this glass back and front finishing, and on the side you've got the power button with the volume rocker, and then on the left hand side it's completely flush, so there are no buttons there. Now down at the bottom you've got the outward firing speakers, which we'll talk about in a moment, and also a USB charging port with the SIM tray. And on the top you also have another pair of outward firing speakers with the microphone. Now on the back we have the quad camera setup. We'll talk more about that in a moment, but the display on the front is actually a very nice display. It's a 6.67 inch Super AMOLED display. It's got curves around the side, just the right amount of curves without it being uncomfortable to hold in the hand, and it also sports a punch hole design, so there is no notch here, and that means that you get more screen real estate. The display performance wise is actually very nice. It's got a smooth 90Hz display, and it also has a resolution of 1080 by 2340. That's probably the only thing that I would like to have seen improved on that display, particularly at this price point, would have been to see a slightly higher resolution display. But underneath that display you also have a fingerprint sensor that you can set up quite easily. It works really well day to day. I've had no issues with my device in terms of fingerprint scanner accuracy or anything of the sort, but if you don't want to use that, you can also use the front facing camera for face unlock as well, which works really easily in terms of setup, but also quite practically day to day in terms of use. Next, let's talk about the all-important performance, and you'll be happy to know that with the Mi 10, with my time spent with it, I've had no real issues in terms of performance. It actually does quite well. It has a Snapdragon 865, which has the 5G modem enabled, so that means that if you've got 5G up and running in your area, you should be perfectly good to go right out of the box. Now that's paired up on my model with 8GB of RAM, and I found that that's perfectly fine in terms of multitasking, graphics, gaming, the rest of it. It does a good job. One thing to note, however, is that with extended gaming, and I'm talking about more than about 40 minutes or so continuous gaming, you will notice the device start to get warm. It won't heat up to the point where you can't use it, but it will get warm. So one of the things that I wasn't impressed with on the Mi 10 are the outward firing speakers that you get on both ends. Unfortunately, when you have the device in your hand, if you're watching a movie, a video, or playing games, it just doesn't work very well, as you can see demoed here. Right out of the box, the Mi 10 is running the latest version of MIUI 11, which is powered on top of Android 10. It does a good job for the most part. There are some issues with bloatware, some issues also with navigation. It would have been nice to see more navigation incorporated, but for the most part I've had no issues, and I actually quite like the always on display features that you'll find on MIUI 11. Next, let's talk about the other main feature on the Mi 10, and that's on the back with the quad camera setup. So essentially you've got a main sensor, which is a 108 megapixel main sensor. By default, the images from that main shooter are binned down, but they still produce a good shot. And that's paired up with a 13 megapixel ultra wide, and then a 2 megapixel macro and 2 megapixel for the depth. In terms of day-to-day use, you've got a good range of different zoom lengths that you might want to use, all the way from ultra wide at 0.6 going up to 10x zoom. Now, zoom on this actually does an okay job when we're talking about normal lighting and bright lighting, and there are also a range of different features to help get you that best shot. There is an element of AI incorporated, as with most current smartphones, to make sure that you get the best shot. Now, there is a designated 108 megapixel option within the camera, and that will maximize that main shooter to get you some really clear crystal shots. They are larger files, and that's why bidding them down is actually probably better, because you get more information, more light come through. But if you want that main sensor capability, you'll be able to use that with this feature. So what are the end results that are produced from the quad camera? Well, you'll be happy to know that for the most part they do a good job, particularly in normal lighting. With that main sensor, the colors and images look very close to accurate in terms of vibrancy, performance, and you're gonna get a good shot all round. I think all the way from ultra wide up to just before 10x zoom, you'll be happy with the shots. Now in low light, this is where it slightly suffers, particularly when you're zooming in from a distance. You're going to notice the distortion and problem with just noise that's prevalent in the images taken. Another thing to note is something that I wasn't impressed with were those macro shots. Those macro shots and that 2 megapixel sensor just feel at this price point not to be good enough, and it would have been nice to see Xiaomi bump those specs up, but I'm sure part of that was to do with the pricing. Now on the front, you've got a 20 megapixel selfie shooter, which is with an aperture of f2.0. Images and the post editing to get that nice bokeh effect actually come out reasonably good. So here's a quick look at what video is like on the Mi 10. This is in ultra wide to begin with. You'll notice that there is a difference between the color saturation, the quality overall with ultra wide when compared with 1x, and then when you start zooming in. So this is video at 1x, and I have the window open and we're quite high up, so let me know what the audio sounds like. There's going to be a lot of noise from the wind, etc. But yeah, let me know how the audio performs with this. Now what I can do is also zoom straight in at a maximum of 6x zoom while recording video. Let me know the quality. So overall, in terms of video, I was quite impressed in normal lighting, but in low light it really suffers, particularly at ultra wide. And you can see that compared with 1x, which does a better job, ultra wide really falls short on this device. Now something else to note, this will record up to 8K. It does heat up when you're doing that, and there is a time limit, but that is available. Battery life. So Xiaomi have done this notoriously well on their smartphones, and the Mi 10 is no different. I was getting a good battery life considering my intensive use on the device. This comes with 4,780 milliamp hour batteries, and it also comes with wireless charging and reverse wireless charging. Now you get 30-watt wireless charging, 5-watt reverse wireless charging, but right out of the box you get the included charger, which is a fast charger, and that will give you between 0 to 100 in just under an hour. So in that regard, I think the Mi 10 does a good job. Now the final point is something that Xiaomi are doing a little different with this device, and that is the price point. So Xiaomi have always in the past been associated with mid-range smartphones, good bang per buck for the specs, but this is a little different. The Mi 10 pushes the price point a little further. This is going to set you back in this part of the world for about 2,599 dirhams. That equates to just over 700 US dollars, and it's competing with some other brand names that make the value proposition a little harder. It's a good device, don't get me wrong. The Mi 10 does offer a great value, but there are some other brands like the OnePlus 8, the OnePlus 8 Pro that do give it some tough competition. But ultimately, I'd love to know what you think, so leave your comments in the comment section down below. What do you think about this device and what Xiaomi are doing with the pricing? And if you're new around here, be sure to smash that like button, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, I'm M. Kwan, peace and blessings.